Hello again, gamers and gamettes, and welcome to another episode of Not So Hardcore Gaming. Before we get into this episode, I just want to quickly thank everybody who is listening. When I first started this podcast, I remembered it took me like 10 minutes to work up the courage just to record the 6-minute introduction to what I wanted to do here. And I found it's been something I have thoroughly enjoyed. And knowing that there are people who actually want to listen is really encouraging. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And yeah, so we'll get to the episode now. Today we're talking about Farcry 3. And I have my good friend and friend of the channel, Blaze.
Hello.
And he's here because he's played it as well, and we've found the best episodes that I release are when he's here. So I try to have him as often as I can, and this was the topic of choice we had at the moment. And yes, so we'll start now. So the first talking point we have today is we're just going to talk about the visuals and audio, like I always do. Firstly, I take into account with games like this that they are a bit older. Like this, I played it on the Xbox 360, and the graphical capability just wasn't there because of the time. It wasn't a powerful console. So, yeah, it's not like they're going to be modern day. But for the time, I think they did very well with it. There's a lot of scenery. You can actually see islands in the background, at a distance, which looks good. It's always something that I enjoy looking at when you can see other parts of the world off in the distance. The character designs were quite good. And then, of course, as I said, you've got all the animals, you've got all the weapons, the cars, everything. It's very fitting to where you are.
It was for its age I played it back on the PlayStation 3, and it was stunning. Like I remember getting the PlayStation 3, all the games looked alright, and I bought this game and I was like, this is the best looking game. Until, Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. And like it's got so many little details, like how your bullets splash when they hit the water.
And they create sparks when they hit metal.
And the leaves of like trees and whatnot moving when you walk through them. Like
yeah, that's an awesome thing to look at.
It's all very visually stunning. One thing I did struggle with is when you skin an animal, it doesn't turn into a carcass. The animal is still there.
Yeah, I found that. I can't say it really bothered me particularly, but even if they just had it disappear or something, it would have been better. But having it there did seem a bit off to me.
But
whereas, like, if you went and you collected leaves or like whatever plants you needed, it disappeared.
Yeah.
And so I thought they did well to do that for the plants, but they just didn't do the same for the animals.
It made it confusing because if I killed like a whole heap of dogs in one sitting, I'd go around collect the skins, but then I'd look at them like, wait, did I collect that skin or that skin? Like,
yeah, it can be bothersome in the end. I definitely do agree with that.
Everything else looks beautiful. The textures, when the car hits something, it actually damages. Like, it all visually looks stunning.
Yeah, absolutely. Then of course the audio. First thing I'll say about it is when it comes to like the voice acting, that I think was done very well.
Especially for characters like Voss and
yeah.
What's that CIA guy's name? Agent something.
I don't know. Bruce or some name
Yeah.
like that.
Let's just call him Bruce.
Yeah, sorry if we do forget some character names. But the voice acting was done quite well. And for your main character, he goes from being the scared guy to someone that you can just tell has seen a lot of crap. And the voice acting just portrays each character well, and each character sometimes will change. They have different moods, and it all fits quite well. We'll talk more about that when we actually talk about the characters themselves. But like the gun sounds, I quite liked. That I obviously have never been around guns, so I don't know what I'm listening to completely, but I have no problems with what it sounded like.
Yeah, everything audio wise, the voice acting was beautiful. The gun sounds were awesome. I found some guns sound exactly the same when they shouldn't. Yeah, but you had your obvious difference, like your shotgun, your pistol had obvious differences. When you add a silencer, it quietened it.
Yeah.
The car sounds and animal sounds were all on point, which was really good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Water splashing, even like I'm a sucker for little things when it comes to the water, and when you hit the water and it splashes, it just was, that little detail was awesome.
Yeah, and it's also another thing I noticed when you're healing, it will make a sound when you're bandaging your arm, and that you can hear like the stretch of that material. When you'll fall, a lot of time he'll have to crack his finger back into position, and it makes that noise. It's all fleshed out really well. I think it's one of the best in that respect for all the sounds that you hear. They do just sound awesome. So we've talked about a bit about the visuals and the audio, and as a segue, we're going to quickly talk about the weapons. So first of all, you've got what you would expect of the different classes of weapons: the pistols, shotguns, snipers, assault rifles, explosives. You've got a bit of everything, as you probably should. And I always like to talk about this type of thing because you have so many different options which affect the gameplay differently. And so I've always found it quite fun trying out different weapons and seeing it from both sides, where you can be the silent but deadly or the loud and destructive. And yeah, so the pistols, they're not the best. We'll say that straight out. And some of my favorite weapons, shotguns are good for just the plain damage, and that's how it should be. Although my favorite weapon is the bow and arrow. I find it really fun with a game like this to have a bow and arrow and a sniper rifle, and just they never hear you. You go in silently, you're done.
Like a ghost.
Oh yeah, it's great. So the combat system, like with all the weapons, is good fun. I like having as many options as possible, and this game does it right in my opinion.
The weapons for me were their stats varied, obviously, but I found I stuck to like 4 different weapons.
Same.
And that was it. It was one assault rifle, one sniper where you can get a silencer, for all them stealthy moments. The bow and arrow, and I usually have the little repair torch, and that comes out as a weapon, so you can walk around and burn people. It's really cool.
I never carried that thing with me, if I'm being honest. The weapons I had was assault rifle, sniper, bow and arrow, and a pistol.
I only carried it around because if I crashed my car, I was too lazy to go find another one. So it was just hold it on the car, or hold an oxy welder on the car, and automatically it's fixed.
I always found that I consider that a bit of a stupid mechanic, that you had to take up a weapon slot for it.
I get that. That was my same thought, but it was very handy to have, especially if you're in the middle of nowhere and you need to repair something.
Yeah, I definitely get that. But I always found I didn't mind running a bit, like shoot up one of the blue syringes. Just I don't know what, forgot the word, but like you go one of those and you just leg it. It's good fun. Of course, it would be me that's talking about how fun it is to run in a video game.
Also things like the grenades, like I never really used the grenades or the C4 or anything like that. Like it was there, the mechanic was there, it was good to have, but I never used it. The only time I ever used a grenade was when I had like a pack of dogs at me, or I was in a really sticky situation with like 4 different vehicles full of enemies. Then I'd hack one.
Yeah, see, like the cars, I liked to blow up cars. Like sometimes, if you just lay one in the middle of the road, a mine, they drive over it, bang, beautiful to watch.
The explosions were very detailed, very well done.
Yeah, they are. I think everybody loves watching explosions. That's why Mythbusters was so successful. So, you know, it's good fun to watch it. And the other time I would use grenades is before you get the heavy takedown.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of damage against those guys. You throw 2 grenades, those guys are gone.
Gosh, that's a good point. I was that one idiot that would sit there behind them, shoot him in the head a couple of times, and then run, wait for him to lose me, and then do it again.
See, I would be the type where, as I said, I either explode them or just spray them. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything to say on that topic. So moving on. So moving on, I just want to quickly mention about replayability. Now this is one thing I like to mention more often than not. Just simply, I remember playing this game a few times. Sometimes it was because there was nothing else, or I just thought, yeah, why not? But I found I went through the game a couple times. It's one that I do tend to enjoy playing quite a bit. And I think it's on newer consoles, which is one thing I was a bit upset that I couldn't do originally, is going and doing the outposts again. On the newer editions, you can just toggle a button which will revert all of the outposts back to where they are. And so I haven't experienced that myself, but it's one I think would greatly benefit the game. As I said, it's there now in the newer version, but yeah, so I just wanted to briefly mention that it is a game that you can play again and again because it's just got that attractive type of gameplay. But we'll quickly move on from that. So, also going to next talk about the perk system or the upgrade system. First of all, you have the Tatau. Now, I refer to it that way. Obviously, it means tattoo, but I call it that because that's what it's called in the game. So, as you level up, as you move on through the game, you unlock new things, and you've got 3 different systems you can go into. One for combat, one for hunting, running around, that style of thing, and one, I don't really know what
It was like stealthy sort of.
Yeah, probably. So you've got those 3 different ones you can invest into, and it's done quite well in my opinion because as you gain more experience, you can do more things. You can, chain take down enemies. You can stealth or melee kill the big heavy bruisers that you come across, and that's something you always enjoy. The only thing I found lacking was that there's no new games plus system.
No, that was very lacking, and I feel like if there was a new game plus system, I probably would have replayed it a few times to fully max out my perks and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I would have loved to have done is just start right from the start of the game with all of those abilities and just run wild. That is something I think the game would have really benefited from most people's perspective in general. But it is what it is.
The perk system was done reasonably well. You know, you got a lot of different like modern games, like the Assassin's Creed Origins perk system was just confusing because it's like a maze, it was everywhere. Whereas this one's a bit more straightforward. You know what you have to accomplish to unlock that perk. You know what you're spending. You know which perk unlocks another perk. So it was done very well in that sense, and they give you genuine upgrades. You know, you different melee attacks. I think there's one where you stab the guy, but then you can steal his knife and throw it. You need to upgrade or get that perk before you can do it.
Yeah.
Things like that. They were very creative. Ubisoft was very creative when it came to the perk system for Far Cry 3, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think the simplicity works in its favor. Like, simplicity works for any game, really, because...
That's why I love the original God of War. They're so simple. It just works. And simplicity works as long as it's not mindless simple. If it's mindless simple, it's just... You feel like that's really dumbing it down for you.
But it's monotonous,
just, If you just simple as simple gets without making me feel dumb.
Yeah, is definitely. Awesome. The other part about the sort of perk system, which is quite similar, is going out and hunting to upgrade certain things. Like you get more weapon holsters or even just a bigger wallet, that style of thing. I love this mechanic because it adds a degree of difficulty. You have to go and do some of the side missions to be able to unlock it. Like you have to go and do hunting missions on the outpost. It gives you an incentive to go and do it. And obviously, on some games, when it has side missions like that, it can be a bit boring. But they've done it where it's worth it, so you want to go and do it. And I very much like that.
The special... Are we talking about special animal? Yeah, we are. The special animal missions where you go, you know, that... if I'm honest, I didn't enjoy that. I found it wasn't difficult, it was just... I don't know, it's just not something I really enjoyed. It probably could have been done a little better in the sense that maybe, you know, I don't know, it's hard to describe without seeing it in my head.
Just didn't sit right.
It just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, well, I guess to each their own, but I personally did find it. I guess it is a little bit monotonous, but I don't know. I'm just not a particularly critical person, so if I am not a major fan of a game mechanic, I get used to it. Like I can adapt. I don't mind. So I guess for me it's a little bit different. But again, moving on, we'll quickly talk about the story. We'll talk about the story, then the characters. So the story, I think, is... I found it to be very well written. You start off as this practically scared teenager, almost. You're out of your element. You've just been kidnapped, and you escape them, and you watch your brother die in front of you. It's I don't know. It's a very sad moment, and it, I think, is a good way for the game to tell you what you're coming up against. Basically, you know, you're in this foreign land. You don't know what you're doing, and you are forced to go and fight to help rescue your friends.
It was the start of the story really showed that you're not here to be a little sook. You're there to do something, you know, and it was a very good direction in what needed to be done. As soon as it started and I got through I got past that first mission, I was like, right, I need to kill that pirate, and save these people, and then cool, we're done. Obviously, wasn't as simple as that, but it really showed that it the start was a really good start. It really showed you what was coming.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, as you go through the game, you notice subtle changes in your character's... Well, in everything a character does, basically. He's very quickly gets used to it, and the tatau that he gets starts to change him a bit. You know, he becomes ruthless. He no longer cares how many people he has to kill to save his friends. And even at one point, he decides that he doesn't want to escape the island. He wants to finish these guys off. And that growth that just happened throughout the story is, again, I think it would be realistic to a degree. Obviously, if you ignore the mysticism and all of that side of things, the tribal nature, it's, you know, you adapt to it, you close your heart to everything that you see, and you get hell-bent on revenge. Like, you have these people kill your family, and then something snaps, and you just want to take them down. I think that would be what very well could happen if a real person were in the same situation.
Oh, for sure, definitely. I know I'd be a bit wary if I was in that situation, definitely.
And yeah, then when you look at it, you have different bosses, I guess, that they're not really, it's not a boss battle type game, but you've got these big names that you have to take down, and then, you know, you take down one of the big names and then you have to go into another. Some would consider that a bit lackluster, but it gives you a sense of purpose in this case. You know, you know there are people worse than this main guy you're looking at, so you have to take them down as well. That's more of a minor note, but a note nonetheless. But yes, so that's the basics of what we can say on the story. So just going to quickly mention a bit more about the characters. Now, so obviously we've talked about Jason already. Now, I want to start this segment by talking about Vaz. Now, I didn't find this out until I actually watched a YouTuber I watched talk about the game, is that apparently originally when this guy auditioned like to play a character in the game, Vaz didn't exist as a character. But this guy had such a great audition, he just played this absolute psychopath in such a good way that they decided to create a whole new character just to let this guy shine. He even did the motion capture acting for it, like for the character. He has to be incredibly talented if you can go in and get a role as a character that didn't exist until you came in. That has to be like one in a million, and he plays the character so well, in my opinion. He was my favorite bad guy.
I think Vast is everyone's favorite bad guy. Like, I think Vast is everyone's favorite character in the game itself.
Probably, yeah.
The voice acting for Vast was done very well, and I actually didn't know that till you just told me then. So he must have had something special about him. For that to happen, and it was a very good decision from Ubisoft to create that and incorporate that, because without that the game wouldn't be as good as it is. The story would be a bit more lacking. I feel like it would have been a lot shorter too. But then if that was the case, they would have found another character to make it longer anyway. So I feel like Vast was inevitable, but not to the extent that he was created as. They couldn't have done it better.
They did it really well. It was to a point where I think a lot of people would agree it was almost a shame having to kill him. Just because he was so fun to watch.
I was very sad when I killed him because there was no more. He was a lovable bad guy. Like, he wasn't lovable as in the sense like he was a good bad guy. Like, he was just a good bad guy, good at what he did.
He was good to watch.
Yeah,
basically, like, obviously
entertaining.
You're supposed to hate him, but yeah, it's as you said, so entertaining. And yeah, so he is just a beautifully written character, a beautifully played character, and yeah, that just has to be really appreciated. Then, so we'll talk about Vetra. Vetra? Citra.
I was going to say, I was
okay,
citrus before.
No clue where I got Vetra from. I apologise. So, Citra, she's odd a bit, and that's not sort of a thing against her, but she's very tribal, very deep into mysticism.
I felt she didn't play a big enough part in the story.
No,
they
she didn't
introduced
really do
her,
much.
and we're all thinking like, "Oh my god, she's gonna be the best thing ever. She's gonna give us so many upgrades." She gave us a few upgrades, and that was it.
Yeah, she didn't play a major role in it. Like, the only role she really played was when you reach the end of the game. It was like she was just there for that end decision, whether you wanted to give in to the darkness, we'll say, or
tribe.
Yeah, like whether you wanted to stay with a tribe or leave the island. I feel like that is the only reason she existed as a character, so it took away from the story not having her being a bigger part of it.
It's the same for your friends that you got to save throughout the story. Is they just don't play a big enough role. You do one mission, they're saved, they start building a boat. Whoop-de-doo. That's all they do. It would have been better if they had a bit more of a... it's hard to describe, more of a involvement in what you're doing and not just sitting on the sidelines spectating. Same with the Doctor. A lot of characters they had just didn't play a big enough role in the game. They needed more of a presence. But they just weren't there. They were there, but they weren't there. Makes sense?
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Basically, the only other one we need to talk about is Hoyt, the real big bad. He was underwhelming.
He was a letdown. The only time I've ever been that let down was when McDonald's stopped doing their $1 cheeseburgers.
Yeah, he didn't have that full presence. Like, all you really saw about him is, oh, he doesn't care about human life. Yay. That was it. He really didn't do anything.
Even his death was underwhelming.
Yeah. There was no big fight. There was no presence there. Like,
it was a rave, if I remember correctly.
Almost, yeah. Like, he was sort of played such a big part in the story, he's the leader, you have to take him down, and he put up no resistance. You'd have a more difficult time killing a toddler in the game. He's just inept, and it was a huge letdown. If Vars had have been the big bad and Hoyt being the underling, the game would have been so much better.
It should have been swapped, definitely, and he played a big role, but he wasn't there for a lot of it.
No, not at all.
It was like that couple of hour sequence where after you kill Voss, you gotta go kill him, and that's it. That's it. You know, he just was not there. And it was a letdown. It was a letdown. We wanted that big bad boss right at the end. We did not get that.
Yeah, exactly.
For everyone that can see, I'm waving my hands about.
Yeah, I said it's one of the few things that few times I've been really let down by a game. It could have been done so much better. He could have put up more of a fight. He just didn't. And yeah, I said that is probably the biggest critique I have about the game. There's not really many other characters to talk about. Although I will quickly talk about Sam, an undercover agent working for Big Bad. Is he's, as I said, he's German, and it sort of works with that because he's a bit unhinged. You know, he's been on the island so long, he's not fully there, and he's just a fun character. You know, he's really a showman almost. I don't know really what to say, but he was one of my favorite characters on it, and that was really the only thing that I found played into how you should hate Hoyt, the big guy, is that he killed Sam. That was pretty much the worst thing he did on screen, because that was a shame. That was my favorite character that just got killed. And yeah, as I said, that's just more of a brief note. That he was pretty much my favorite character, and that's really all the main important characters, except for the tribal guy who first gives you your tatau.
You got Willis. He gives you that really cool mission where you get to burn the pot farm.
Oh yeah,
I love that mission. That's the best thing about the game was that mission. Like, I've not enjoyed a mission that much since Bloodborne. It was awesome.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that mission. Don't know how. But no,
the music fits it so well.
Yeah, I mean, I never really paid attention to music in games. I just turn it right down. But I do remember it was sort of playing into it. And that is one other thing about the game as well, that, you know, there's quite a bit of drug use in it. And it's sort of...
Yeah, you used heroin needles for $20. There's a lot of drug use in it. You don't see the drug use, but a lot of drug references.
Yeah. The only times you can really see the drugs is with the tribal scenes, that type of stuff. And it's trippy. It's well done for it, because, you know, you're something high as a kite, and you just see weird things. You know, the shifting colours, the weird way things move. That added to it quite a bit. It was done well, that you would think, yeah, you're playing a high guy right now. Oh no, yeah, that's a note that I probably should have mentioned earlier, but yeah, it's fun almost having that part of it. Obviously, I do not condone drug use in any way, but it's fun in the game at least. And yeah, that's pretty much everything we have to say about the game. Yeah, it's
8 out of 10 for the whole game for me.
Yeah, I would probably have to agree thereabouts. 8.5 maybe. So that would be the end of today's episode. Thank you for coming, players.
That's all good. I'm happy to be here.
And with nothing further to say, this is Not So Hardcore Gaming. I'm Jeremy, signing off.